Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Anne Reardon and today we're making all your favourite apps on a much requested iPad cake. I'll show you 2 different ways to make the iPad, so let me know in the comments which one you prefer, which one looks better. Firstly though, we're going to make our apple box, and to make that you need to make 1.5 quantities of the rich chocolate cake recipe and bake that in 2 trays. The recipe videos and everything that you need to make the iPad cake are all on this week's blog post, and I'll link to that in the description below the video. Once your cakes have cooled, level them out and then cut them in half and place a small amount of frosting onto the cake board, followed by the first layer of cake. Then cover that in frosting and then add 2 more layers of cake, so you'll have 1 layer spare. Now trim the edges to make that as straight and box-like as you can get it. Then cover the whole thing in a thin layer of frosting, and this coat catches all of those crumbs. I'm using a mixture of American buttercream and white chocolate ganache here, and again those recipes are all on the website. Place that in the fridge, and once the frosting has firmed up, then we want to cover it in another layer of frosting. Now take your time when you're putting this one on, and you want to try and get the edges as straight as you can and those corners as crisp as you can. When you put the fondant over the top, it will reflect what you've done underneath. Then place it back in the fridge to firm up, and now take some water on a pastry brush and brush the cake. This just makes it a little bit damp so the fondant will stick to it better. Roll out your white fondant and then lift it up and drape it over the cake. You pinch it in at the corners and use scissors to trim off the excess and then rub it with your finger. Now to get those tight edges, you'll need to use a fondant smoother to smooth it out and also massage it towards the edges. You can make the front of the iPad screen out of a printed icing sheet or out of fondant. The printed icing sheets can be purchased online. They don't taste great, even though they say they're made out of icing. They're not sweet, but they are good for apps that have detailed logos. To make the fondant ones, firstly we'll need to make an app cutter. To do that, decide how big your apps are going to be, and then take some aluminium flashing and fold it around something round like a pen to make that rounded corner shape that all apps have. Repeat that with the next corner each time, lining it up with the distance you want the sides to be, so they're all about the same. Once you get back to the beginning, trim the first side to about half the distance and then fold up the last side to overlap it, trim it off and then use some tape to hold it into place. Now for all your favourite apps. You guys had so many requests. We can't do all of them, but here's some of them. Starting at the bottom, we have Dumb Ways to Die. To make this one, roll out some background colour, and for all of your backgrounds, use 2 skewers either side of your fondant, and then when you're rolling it, the rolling pin just rests on those so you get a uniform thickness for all of our buttons. Then cut it out using the cutter that we made, and then roll an oval of blue and squash it, and then using a little bit of water, add it to the square. Trim off that excess, then make balls of orange, really little ones, and then roll them into teardrop shapes and add them for the fire hair. Dumb Ways to Die was a viral YouTube video made by Metro Trains in Australia promoting train safety, and it was so popular that it's got its own game and various other things now as well. And you can play the game and try and survive all the different scenarios or dumb ways to die that are in the song. Roll out a snake of white for the smile and then add 2 dots for the eyes using a food safe marker. Cut the Rope is a good fun little game that I like as well. I printed this one on the edible icing sheet, and you can get the image that I printed it all on from the How to Cook That website as well. I'll put it up there for you. Next we have Pandora. To make the logo, print it out and cut out the P shape, making sure you keep that white part in the centre of the P. Pandora is a music app where you can listen to music using Wi-Fi and create your own stations, and it's free if you don't mind lots of adverts. If you want no ads, then you'll need to pay every month. Place it on some white fondant and with the middle of the P in place as well, and then just brush it with some powdered blue food colour using a dry paintbrush. And then brush off any excess blue, peel it off, and then place your cutter over the top and cut it out. Next on the printed one we've got We Heart It. This is similar to Pinterest, but in my opinion not as good. What do you think? Spotify is next, which is similar to Pandora, where you can listen to songs in playlists for free on Wi-Fi and make your own playlists. It seems to have less ads than Pandora does, and I think it's got a bit of an easier interface to use. Once you've rolled and cut out the black, cut out a green circle using a piping tip and place it on top. Roll out a snake of black, curve it and place it on, and then repeat that using 2 smaller and thinner snakes. The next printed one we've got is Geometry Dash. I'd never played this game before. You jump over shapes and it's really hard but kind of addictive. Then we've got Skype. Roll out 2 ovals out of blue, flatten them and place them across each other. Then use a snake of white to add the S and then put the whole thing onto a white square. Hay Day is a game where you run a farm. It's one of the top grossing apps, of course, because it has in-app purchases. Next, we've got Retrica. Retrica lets you take photos with different filters and different layouts, so it's just a bit of a fun photo app. You cut out a square of white and then take a strip of orange and put that on the top, and then roll out a ball of white and add it to the top of that, and then repeat that with a ball of black. Then add 4 little dots in the corner using your food grade marker. Then we've got Temple Run. That game's been around for quite a while now, but you run and you swipe to turn and swipe to jump and swipe to slide under things. It's got quite a complicated logo, so it suits best the printed one. Next we have Pooh. In this game you have a little character who you feed and you can play games with. If you feed him too much he'll get fat. And if you have push notifications on, this game can get really annoying, but if you turn them off it's a pretty cute little game. Cut out your white square, then roll a circle of brown and squash it and pinch it to make it narrower at the top. Then roll a tiny square of white and then cut it in half to get 2 even eyes. Then roll them into balls and add them on top. Then use a food safe marker to draw on the black dots on his eyes and his little mouth. Next we've got Subway Surfers. We've played this one for a while now. You just dodge trains and collect coins, pretty much the opposite of the Message of the Dumb Ways to Die one. Next we've got WhatsApp. With WhatsApp you can use your smartphone to send text messages, photos, videos, and you do it all over the internet instead of using SMS. Cut out a green square and roll out a snake of white, then make a mini oval and trim it at the join to leave a slight tail. To make the phone, cut a short piece of white and bend it over at each end and then add that to the middle. Clash of Clans is next. It's a multiplayer game by the makers of Hay Day. You build defences and train troops and attack other players and communities. It does have wizards and witches in the gameplay, so if that bothers you, choose another game. Next we've got 2048. This is a game where you keep adding things together. So you add 2 2s to make 4 and then 2 4s to make 8 and then 16, 32 and so on, trying to get all the way up to 2048. Cut out a square of the yellow and then paint on 2048 using white food colouring. Next we have Surprise Cakes. This is my app, so thanks for requesting that one. This allows you to use gaming technology to bring your cake to life. We're currently working on the next update for it, which will have a whole new animation which is secret. I can't tell you what it is yet, but be on the lookout for that. Next we have Pinterest, which allows you of course to pin things that you find online to different boards so you can easily find them again. On the iPad or iPhone though, this can get a bit tricky because you don't have the pin it button, but if you browse within the Pinterest app then you can easily pin stuff from there. Cut out a square of white and then a circle of red and roll out a long snake of white and start out making a semicircle on the top half, then bring it in and up to the top, then back down and trim it off at the edge of that circle. Then just use a skewer to help make any little adjustments to the shape to make it look right. Lots of requests for a Bible app. The YouVersion one is one of the most popular ones and it's one of the most functional. It's got all different things you can do in there. Then Candy Crush, this is an old one now. If you like Candy Crush, then you can check out the Candy Crush cake that we've got on the channel. Wattpad, this one lets you write a story. I'd never heard of this one before, but now I've checked it out. It's quite interesting. You write your story and then other people can comment after each chapter and vote or share it. So you're getting feedback on what you're writing. Next we've got Piano Tiles. This is a simple but addictive free game where you have to tap on all the black or coloured tiles and avoid the white ones as fast as you can. To make the logo, cut a square out of white and out of black, then cut each of those into quarters. Use 2 from each to join them together to make the checkerboard look, and then just use a little water when you're joining them together to make them stick. Now for the top 10 most requested apps. At number 10, we've got Kik, which is a messaging app for smartphones so that you can message instead of SMSing. Then we have at number 9, YouTube. Hey, you should know how to use a YouTube app because you're watching YouTube, so I'm not going to explain this one. Cut a square out of red and then cut a rounded rectangle out of white, add it on top, and then cut a tiny triangle out of red and add that on top. At number 8, we have Kim Kardashian Hollywood. I didn't like this game. I'm really sorry, girls. But if you read the ratings on games, they're there to help you make wise decisions for yourself or for your kids if you're the one controlling what they get. It's rated 12+ for mature, suggestive themes, horror themes, violence, alcohol and tobacco and drug references, crude humour and mild sexual content and nudity. Let's go on to the next one. Coming in at number 7 was Vine, which is an app where you can post and watch 7-second videos to share. And just like YouTube, there are some good ones and some rubbish ones. Roll and cut out your background colour and then roll a snake of white fondant, and starting at the top corner there, drape it down to make a V shape, and then use a knife to make it more pointed down at the bottom there, and then loop the end bit around to make that curve and then trim it off. At number 6, we have Twitter, and I assume you know this one. You can tweet short 140-character text messages publicly or privately to a person who is following you. Cut out a blue square and then cut a circle out of white. Make a cut like you're making a Pac-Man, and then round one corner of that. On the opposite side, make a cut following the line of where the body of the bird is. And then trim off the wing section to make it smaller because it's way too big there, and then slice it into 3 sections. Use your skewer to pull a little point for the beak and then place it onto the blue. Let's pause our top 10 count there to make the symbols that go down the bottom really quickly. For SMS, cut out a circle of green and then make a ball of white, squash it, and use your knife to shape the triangle part and then add it on top. For emails, cut out a square of blue, then a small rectangle of white, then indent the envelope shape into the white using your knife and add it on top. For the Safari symbol, add a circle of blue on top of a square of white, then roll some red really thinly and put that on top of some white and cut out that compass needle part. Add that to the middle, then make indents all the way around the circle. For iTunes, cut out a red square and then use a snake of white fondant to make the music shape note. Now back to our count. At number 5, most requested by you, was the Facebook app, and I'll show you Tumblr at the same time because their logos are so similar. Tumblr actually came in at number 11. Roll out some white, rub a little bit of oil onto it, and cut out the letters and place them onto the fondant. Then dust it with blue powdered food colouring, dust off any excess, and then remove the paper and cut them out using your square cutter. Minecraft, there are so many YouTube channels devoted to this game that I think it needs no introduction, was at number 4. Now at number 3 we have Flappy Bird. Mix some green and blue and roll it out and then cut it using a square cutter. Roll a small ball of yellow and flatten it, then add an oval of orange for the beak and a white circle for the eyes and a yellow wing. Then using a marker to dot or draw on all those pixelated looking edges. Flappy Bird was a very popular app and it had more than 50 million downloads, and then the creator removed it from the App Store saying it was too addictive and he was getting too much bad feedback. There were rumours that he had taken off because of copyright violations, but apparently that's not true, and it's now available again on Amazon Fire TV but not in the App Store. Trim off any excess of that yellow and then add it to the square. At number 2, most requested, was Snapchat. I can't believe that this was number 2. I don't use this one. Basically, you send a picture or a video to someone and it deletes within a few seconds of them opening it. In a survey in the UK, 67% of Snapchat users said they'd received inappropriate pictures on Snapchat. Roll out a square of yellow, make an oval of white, then flatten it out, then use a straw to push it up on each side of the base and in at the sides. Make 2 slices in the base and then place it on top of the yellow, and then use your skewer to pull some fondant from underneath to make the little arms. Number 1 most popular, which I like as well, yay, was Instagram. You share your photos or your little short videos and then you can follow other people whose feed you like as well. You can follow How to Cook That on Instagram, and I'll put a link below to all the different social medias that I'm on if you haven't found those. Use your cutter to cut a strip of brown and add it to the top of a white square. Then roll a ball of white and squash that in the middle. Then add a ball of black. Roll a snake of yellow, green, red and blue. These need to be really tiny, and add them to the top corner and then trim them off. To make the background of the iPad, roll out some white fondant and then add paper towel where the clouds are. Then sprinkle it with raw sugar and spray it with some food colour spray, making it darker at the top. I'm then adding some more black colour at the top too and just blending that in with my finger. If you have black spray, that would be even better. Once it's dry, brush off the sugar and you can see all your stars left there. Roll a strip of blue and place it across the bottom, then roll out some white and place it around the iPad using some baking paper just to smooth out those joins. Place the template over the top and trim it to the right size, and then add circle indents. Now add in all of your apps that we've made using a little bit of water to make them stick, and then use a ruler to line them up neatly. To make your Apple logo on the side of the box, cut out a circle and push it up at the base with something round like a straw, and then down at the top with something straight. Flatten out the lower sides on each side and then cut out the leaf shape. Brush that with silver luster dust and then add it to the cake using a little bit of water. To make the printout iPad, roll out some white fondant to the right size, rub the back of the printout, the backing side, on the bench to loosen it, and then carefully peel off that backing. Place your icing onto the fondant and then use the backing to rub the top of it to make it smooth, and then trim it along the edges. Now for both of these, you can make the fondant really thick if you want to make it the right thickness for your iPad, or if you want to make it taste really good, you can make a backing out of chocolate. Just temper some chocolate, spread it out, and then add your iPad on top. And once it's firm, trim up the edges using a knife. Place some grey fondant into a fondant extruder and make a long strip. Alternatively, you could roll out the grey and then use a ruler to cut a strip. Dampen the sides of your iPad and add it all the way around the edge. And now your iPad is ready to add to the top of the cake, and you can serve it up. If you're not already subscribed to How to Cook That, why aren't you? Click on that button and join us for more crazy sweet creations. There's a new video every Friday. You can add all your requests in the comments below. We read them all and tally them up like there are thousands of requests for this one. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you on Friday.